indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
Councilmember Bardini. Present. Councilmember Totino.
Present.
Councilmember Foreman.
Here.
Councilmember Rye.
Here.
Supervisor Alt.
Here. Everybody okay with the agenda?
Sure.
Yes. We got no minutes today. We have new employees. Commissioner Pierce, can you introduce the new members of the department, please?
Good evening, Council. We have 4 out of the 5 recent hires here tonight. The 5th one is working this evening, so we can't attend. The first officer is Victoria Laso. In 2019, Victoria graduated Mount St. Mary's College, having earned a Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice. Shortly after graduation, she became a correction officer with Rockland County, where she worked for 5 months. Victoria was employed as a crime victims counselor for the Orange County Probation for several months before attending the Westchester County Police Academy. After graduation from the Police Academy in May of 2024, she became a full-time police officer with Carmel Police Department, where she was employed for 1 year. Victoria?
Hi, everybody.
Go to the mic, please.
The town wants to see you.
Yeah, I want to see the town. Hi, everybody. My name's Victoria Laso. I started with the town of Fishkill PD, and I've been very happy here so far. So.
Anybody have any questions?
No. Have you ever heard of Splashdown?
Yes. Yeah, I worked for them for about 7 years, and then I worked for Damian Brady over on the Waterfront Pizza Shop, so I stayed with them for a while.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You know I knew that because I talked to each one of you.
Yeah.
I kind of rigged it right there. You're going to be awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that. Oh, thanks.
Next officer is Michaela Henry. Michaela is a Bachelor of Science degree in Human Resource with minor Criminal Justice from Post University. She became a police officer at the Mount Vernon Police Department in 2016, where she works for 4 years. Michaela joined the Greenburgh Police Department in December of 2020, where she continues to work as a police officer. Michaela?
Hello.
Hello, good evening. My name is Michaela Henry. 39 years old. I have 2 children. I'm originally born and raised Mount Vernon, New York. I then became a police officer there, wanted to give back to my community. I'm very community oriented. I transitioned to the town of Greenburgh, and now I hold a position as the community affairs school liaison. So I provide services to the school, trainings, I do presentations, I push into the classrooms, and I do a lot of community outreach for the town of Greenburgh. I took this job here in Fishkill because I was told this is very community-based, and I just enjoy the fact of giving back to the community and being a great asset, being that bridge between the police, law enforcement, and the community, whether it's with the youth or just with the community itself. So I'm happy to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome. Awesome. No, you just come with a great bunch of skills, so that's just great to hear, you know.
Next officer is Richard Farrell. In 2023, Richard began his career with law enforcement as a police dispatcher with the town of Lloyd. After dispatching for 1.5 years, he decided to pursue a career in law enforcement, attended SUNY Ulster Police Academy. After graduating from the Police Academy in June of 2024, Richard joined the town of Plattekill Police Department, where he continues to work as a part-time police officer. Officer Farrell.
Hi everyone, I'm Ricky. Thank you for having me. So I grew up in New Windsor, just recently moved out like 2 months ago. I live in Wallkill now, in Plattekill, where I work. Main reason I came to Fishkill is because I worked in Splashdown. I like this area a lot, so I wanted to see what it had to offer. Definitely enjoying it so far. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Welcome aboard.
Next officer is Jeremy Tompkins. In 1999, Jeremy began his law enforcement career as an environmental police officer with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. In December 2012, he was promoted to the rank of sergeant, held that rank until his resignation in October of 2021. Candidate Thompson is a well-trained police officer with strong desires to continue working in law enforcement, utilizing his training experience to serve our community. Officer Tompkins.
How we doing, everyone? As you said,
Yeah.
Jeremy Tompkins. I had 22 years with DEP, and go ahead with the question. Ask me why I resigned.
Well, we already did that last time.
Okay,
We beat you to it, we
Yeah,
found out.
Got the
okay,
answer and we're satisfied.
okay.
Yeah.
So I had a very successful career over there. I did a lot of community relations. I was in a lot of specialized units over there. And I was gone for 3.5, 4 years, and I felt the need to get back involved, and it was recommended to me to come to Fishkill. It's community-oriented and a great place to work.
Excellent.
Good.
So,
Thank you.
and my daughter will be going to Auburn, so.
And I told you, as somebody from LSU, I guess it's okay.
And the last officer, he's not here tonight. He's, like I said, he's working at his full-time job.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it.
Scotty, it sounds like you need to set up a recruitment booth at Splashdown,
Yes. Good move.
evidently.
We're good, guys. You guys can leave.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, there's no presentations, so we'll go right to privilege of the floor for general time items. This is time to speak about anything regarding the town of Fishkill. Gentleman first.
Good evening, everyone. Anthony Cardinale. Wound up missing the last board meeting where you guys were discussing the rail trail a little bit more. I did get a chance to watch that meeting, so hopefully my questions don't overlap too much. My understanding is that you guys are looking into the possibility of Doug Phillips and Sarah Taylor Park as parking areas, or I could be completely wrong in that. Thought that was mentioned last time.
I think they talked about areas that you can get access to the trail. Entry points to the trail.
It's so way up in the air. There's
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
definitive on anything like that, so no.
Okay. Well, whether it is a park, those are areas that have a certain amount of parking, right? So I think that is a better idea than allowing people to park in neighborhoods that are bordering up against that trail. I'm someone who's been biking ever since I was a kid. Anytime my wife and I go on a vacation or a trip somewhere, if there's a rail trail, we often will bring our bikes if the weather's going to allow it. With that said, I do know that oftentimes in any of the rail trails that I've visited, that you do have people who don't live in that community, a lot of which parking and taking up spaces in those neighborhoods. And that is something that I don't want to see in those neighborhoods. I live in one of them. That's bordering up against that rail trail. Especially since there's so many young children in the neighborhood where I live, I especially wouldn't want an excess of strangers just coming in and out. As part of the planning process, it would also be nice to see if there was some sort of a curfew on the rail trail, just like there's a curfew on our parks. And, for good reason. So stuff isn't happening at night that really shouldn't be under the cover of darkness. So I don't see why we wouldn't be able to institute something like that as well during the portion of the trails that are going through the town of Fishkill.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good. Ms. Anderson?
Bridget Anderson, 29 Pritchard Court in Fishkill. I noticed on the agenda that there's 2 items pertaining to the property maintenance code, and I'm curious to understand, and I'm not familiar with these properties at all, but if the town of Fishkill is enforcing the property maintenance code, why we're not doing it at the old Duchess Mall? I brought that up a number of times. I mean, that is a blatant, and I drove by it today in the pouring rain just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. but nothing's changed. So what is the town of Fishkill doing about that, which is absolute blight on the town? You see it coming into Fishkill. There's a couple of new projects across the street from that, but it's falling down, it's not safe, and I've brought it up a number of times.
Okay.
For me, I have contacted the gentleman that's managing it and have said those very things recently. And everyone's disgusted with it. I'm disgusted with it. There's no doubt about it. He has an assurance that something is happening there quickly. I don't know what the timeline is, but sometime in the not too distant future. And I know that our patience is running thin, so I'm up for giving it more time and hopefully hearing something positive. And then, it's getting old, I don't know.
It's not getting old, it's in violation of the building code, and he should be being fined. And he should if he's been fined in all the time that this has gone on, there may be some financial incentive for him to at least make it safe. So that's on the town, because it's up to the town building inspector to enforce the property maintenance code, which you are enforcing on these two other properties. What's good for one should be good for everyone. Second thing I have is on January 21st, I sent an email to the planning board chair, John Cantor, concerning the Healy project, my favorite project, and about the planting areas along Route 52. That project was started when I was on the planning board, and one of the things we wanted to make sure was that there was plantings along that road. Nothing's been done. In fact, they soldered it. John gave me a very detailed answer in which Ozzy and Joel were both copied on it, pointing out that there's supposed to be substantial plantings there. I thought maybe they were going to be small. I tried to print out the site plan, but I can't do it on my computer. But some of the plants out there that are supposed to be there, they're supposed to be Norway spruce, a number of them, dogwoods, hydrangeas, winterberries, junipers, spireas, and even some black-eyed Susans. None of it is there. And my question is, are we going to let Healy get away with another thing by not requiring them to do what they're required to do per their final site plan approval? Ozzy, you've been copied on all the emails. I sent an email again to Joel. It was a nice email, just trying to follow up to ensure that this was going to be done, and I've gotten no answer from either him or Ozzy. So,
well, I mean, I can certainly place a call to Dwight Healy and find out what their plans are.
Their plans are not to put them in. They told Tim DeLorme, who you met from Fishkill Woods here, before that they were saving the area for snow removal, and they had no intention of doing those plantings. It's required per their site plan approval, and quite frankly, on the drawings, it says that's required for their C of O. They have to be.
Who said there weren't no intention?
I think his name is Mike. He's Healy's rep. He's a construction guy. I may have his name. I call him Mike and I call him Matt. I'm not sure which one of his. Is it Matt? Matt. He's very nice.
Yep.
But that's what he told us.
He was there on the walkthrough that one day, right?
Yes,
okay.
He was there on the walkthrough. I don't know how many times I have to come before the town board to get Healy to do what they're supposed to do. And until they're in compliance with their site plan, they should not have a final CO. And I've pointed that out on numerous occasions before.
Bridget, this is the first time I'm hearing about this.
The plantings?
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I know, I understand, but I've told you guys about the walls, I've told you guys about everything that's going on wrong with that project. I am not the code enforcement officer for the town of Fishkill, but I feel like I have been, because what happens is they violate their approved site plan. They're allowed to do it by the building inspector and the town engineer, and I come in and tell you that they're not in compliance. And then they get their hands slapped. Nothing has had to been taken down, removed, or done differently. They seem to only be told, don't do it again, while they continue to do it again. So, the last thing I have is, and it's probably along the same subject, is I brought up, and I think it was the beginning of last year, but I can't, the meeting minutes for these meetings are not very detailed, so I couldn't find out exactly when I brought this up. But I asked that there be a regular schedule for the engineer's inspections on projects. I think you remember, I think you asked the board's attorney to look into what kind of schedules were out there. I know you had piped in. Because what happens is, the building inspector has said on numerous occasions, and specifically on our project at Fishkill Woods, that he only inspects 5 feet out. The town engineer shows up when the project is finished. So all the problems that go on along a project, including 15-foot retaining walls at Healy that nobody knew about until I pointed it out, and he finally went over there and looked at it, it's all after the fact. And there seems to be no expectation for what the town engineer is supposed to do into what they inspect. This isn't a cost to the town. This comes out of the escrow for the projects that the applicant or the builder is doing. So I went online and I found an inspection site development checklist that the town of Poughkeepsie uses and has their developers complete and turn in monthly. And it lists all the inspections, what needs to be done, and it actually has, contractors having to call the town engineer or the town with 72 hours notice to actually look in the ground to make sure that the pipes have been put in correctly, or that the grading for the road is done correctly, and that the base is installed correctly, because Joel, when he goes, only looks 5 feet out. So, I'd like to give you this.
I was just about to ask if you have an extra copy, or we can just get on the website.
I have a copy. I was not able to speak to anyone at the town. I wasn't sure who to call, and I wasn't sure if they'd answer me. But this is not right. Homeowners and communities and the town should not be stuck with projects that are a mess because the building department doesn't want to do what they need to do. And Greg, I'll be honest with you, you followed me out into the parking lot before you were elected. And you told me that when you got elected, this stuff was not going to happen anymore. You were personally going to make sure that the building department did their job. And I will tell you, standing here today, nothing has changed. So you either lied to me when you chased me out into the parking lot to probably get my vote, but somebody up there has to do something. This isn't right. I come on a broken record. I say the same thing every time I come here, and nothing changes. Ozzy, you sit there with a smug look and you shake your head, and you don't tell Joel anything.
Ms. Anderson, feel free to speak
He works
as much
for
as
you.
want.
He has an obligation to the town of Fishkill to enforce the property maintenance code. He has an obligation to the town of Fishkill to ensure projects are built correctly, so that people don't show up here talking about stuff that should not, these things should not be issues. So, I will give you the inspection report that they have. I'll give you my emails that I sent that Ozzy already has, and hopefully something will be.
If you give it to Cooper, he can circulate it to everybody.
Yep.
Please, thank you.
Good idea.
Anybody else like to speak, please?
Yeah.
Hello, Louise Daniele, legal resident of over 30 years. Before I start, I just want to say, when the police officers were here, I know the board said that they knew why the police officer resigned. I don't think the rest of the audience knows why. And if he started in 99 and retired in 21, that would be over 20 years. So for myself, I would want to know why he didn't retire. Whatever it was, why didn't he retire instead of resign? My own question. And also, I think it was the same officer said he was recommended. So I'm just wondering if our recruiting is friends of friends, or are we actually going to put it out there for other people besides friends of friends from the same police department and other friends of people who are now in the police department, which it should not be. Regarding the agenda, once again, it is not complete, the entire agenda packet. I'll speak about the ward system later, but let's see, number 4, discussion about the highway superintendent reviewing 3-way stop sign. There's no documentation on it at all. Number 5, discussion of the planning board recommending hiring a hydrologist consultant. There's 2 sentences that talk about the Fishkill Commerce Center. Where is it? I didn't even know which project this was. I haven't been following along at the planning board, but I actually thought it was Continental Commons, so I don't even know where it is. In the last sentence says the application as referred by their letter. There's no letter attached, not very transparent. When you go to the resolution for that same discussion, at the very bottom of the resolution, it says, let's see, that the town supervisor is authorized to enter into a contract in regard to same. No contract attached. So these are things that should be attached, and people should have no questions when they're reading the agenda packet, but there are questions. As far as the consent agenda on the back, I was just wondering why the agreement for the highway money, why are there less roads being paved than what was actually budgeted for? And for the resolution about establishing the town policy for U.S. Immigration and Customs, why are we doing that? Why was that done? Like, to me, where it says in number 1, where such requests are within constitutional parameters, there is no question here. It should be done. So to me, this is just smoke and mirrors for someone to make a policy who didn't even bother asking the entire board if they wanted to get their input on it, whether he has the right to do that or not. He should have reached out to the board before he sent out an e-gov stating that he created this new policy. So I don't really think it's necessary because the police department has to follow the law. And if that's what the law says, we shouldn't have to write a policy to tell them they have to follow the law. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Sure.
I guess this is a question for Cooper or whomever. When we provide a copy of something to the board, does that become part of the minutes? Because I had a very difficult time searching for, I wanted to be able to come up here and say, on such and such a date, I said this. And I turned things in, and the information wasn't there. I was under the impression that anything that was given to the board becomes a matter of record in the meeting minutes.
So when a document is given to, like, us, the town clerk, directly, what we do is we do file it, we keep it with a hard copy of our meeting minutes. So they are there, they're in the physical copy of the minute books that we have. That's why we usually put like a statement in our minutes saying a hard copy. If it's given to like the supervisor or one of the council members.
No, this is at a meeting. If I'm here at a meeting, as I just handed you that documentation, can somebody explain to me what happens with that? Because I have not been able to find anything that I've turned over to the board at a meeting in the minutes.
So, yes, so this will be added, this was given, so it's added to the physical copy of the minutes. So we have a digital that we create from our program.
Yes.
These are usually added to the physical copy. So we print it out, we put a hardcover copy that we filed with the town, and they are in the physical copy of the minute book.
So it's not online?
If she wants the hard copies.
No, I'm just curious. So it's not the official copy that is online is not the official meeting minutes, including everything that was at the meeting?
They are, but maybe I'm just confused by what you're saying, because sometimes when people like distribute information to the board members, if we don't get a copy of that, we won't have that on file.
Okay, so let me ask my question another way. What I gave you tonight, okay, when I look at the meeting minutes online for this meeting, when they're posted, and it's usually for the next meeting, will what I gave you be part of the meeting minutes that I can see online?
So usually, no. So usually they will be in a physical copy of the minutes. I can try to attach them.
No, I just wanted to know what the answer was. That's fine. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Next up is liaison member reports. Jackie, Councilwoman Bardini, you can go first.
Okay. Sorry, just opening my notes here.
You got anything?
Yeah, I'm sorry. But I couldn't get my laptop to work tonight, so I'm looking for the notes. So, off the top of my head, if I was informed that Fishkill Girl Scouts are selling cookies at the Wendy's on Elm Street every Saturday in March. So please go out and support them. I did have 2 meetings this week. The first one was with the developers of the former Rolling Hills development. If you guys remember, that was over in 90. There was supposed to be, I think, over 500 units. So the new developers are going to be building to code, to code. So they came with 2 plans. One was more commercial, which I don't think people, have residences there would like to see, Amazon trucks coming in and out. And I don't think that's where we're going to go with that. I think what we'd like to see is maybe a small amount of businesses in the front and, some apartments and, dwellings in the back part of the property, much like some of the other things in 9D. So that's in the works. And then I met with developers for the Fjord Trail. And, that's just something that's in process. And we did have a meeting with some of the town members regarding the trail that's going to be going in the back of where the development, where 9D, back where I live, and then where there's some other apartments and townhouses, rather. So there's 2, trails being proposed. So, we did send a letter that the people would prefer if it was further back, away from the houses, so there would be less, things like trespassers and people coming on into property that, you don't know who they are. Things could become dangerous, and that we were concerned about things like that. And he seemed to be very receptive to that. So, it's in progress, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. That's all I have right now.
Excellent. That Rolling Hills thing is going to definitely be a benefit to the residents of Fishkill.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thank you for attending that meeting. Councilman Totino?
Yeah, just a couple of things really quick. I received an email from a resident who lives in the general vicinity of the new Rombout Firehouse, which I think is really quite a beautiful thing and a great safety asset to the town. Noted that the sirens have been sounding late at night, early in the morning, and I'm wondering if we can perhaps have a conversation with the Rombout people, find out why that's happening, and see what we can do about making sure that that stops post-haste.
Okay.
Brian's got his hand up.
I have an answer.
You do?
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
He evidently communicated with, I guess, multiple board members. And
Always wise.
as I learned, right now that is a programming issue with the sirens, and I communicated all this to the gentleman. They're working to get that reprogrammed. So certain hours late at night till early in the morning, there's only 1 blast. During the day, it's 2 blasts. And of course, I explained to him, as I learned from, all fire departments, as John and I have been working with them, the backup is that blast. They have to have that, because if the cell phone's not working or the pager isn't working or other things, at least they have that going. And so he came back with a number of suggestions for them. And as far as, maybe a more technical and less noisy, and I said, these are organizations that are governed unto themselves, and they do have open meetings, and I just said, I think, for all these suggestions, instead of us on the board being an intermediary, it might be prudent to go straight to one of those meetings and have that discussion.
Great. Well, thanks for the info there and the update. That is good to know. I will be in the near future meeting up with Luke Clementi, the owner of the mine down on Route 9. He's heading out of town this week, but did reach out about setting up an opportunity just to have an update and give us a general info session on what's going on with the mine. I'm looking forward to having that meeting with him in the near future, and I'll of course report back on any important developments going on with the mine. And lastly, over the weekend, I had the opportunity to see our town clerk, our deputy clerk, and our fantastic young men and women from the police cadets who were all marching in the Dutchess County St. Patrick's Day Parade up in Wappinger. Great event, a little rainy, a little windy, but the spirits were up and everyone did a fantastic job, so my commendations to everyone there. As always, to Sergeant Murtaugh, Detective Bentley, and all the kids from the police cadets. You did a fantastic job as always. Cooper and Becky, it was great to see you. Sorry, Becky's not here tonight to hear that, but I was sure to give her a big hug and tell her that she was doing a great job. She looked great with her Irish sweater. So that's all I have. John.
Okay, thank you everybody for tuning in. Last week I had the opportunity to spend a couple hours with the new police commissioner to discuss his role and his ideas as police commissioner and how he can communicate with the town board moving forward. So we look forward to that, and thank you for your time. I did speak to Ozzy real quick, and I'm not going to speak for the town board, but the Social Security Administration building in Poughkeepsie. You know, there's a lot going on up there. There's rumors of closing and renovations and possibly limiting services. So, and I honestly don't care whether this started under the Biden or Trump administration. I'm okay with DOJ attempting to find waste, fraud, and abuse, but what I object to personally is actions such as this when it directly affects our most vulnerable residents, which are our seniors. So it bothers me that Congressman Ryan can't get really a lot of straight answers either. So again, this affects all of our residents in Dutchess County, even the people who live like in Highland and Lloyd, who would rather drive to Poughkeepsie than over to the Middletown office. So it just bothers me, and I don't care who's at fault, but it bothers me.
Would you like to do some type of letter or something?
Yeah, well, maybe a memorialization.
So, Mr. Gava, can you write a letter that we can send to whoever's in charge of the Social Security thing, and I'll sign it?
We can, but I didn't think any determination had been made in regard to that Social Security.
It's on the DOJ website now.
So we're looking for a letter to not close it, something generic like that.
Sure.
You guys okay with just doing that? Yeah. I don't have to bring it back to the board?
And keep it clean.
Yeah,
sure.
Keep it short. Everybody, John?
Thank you.
Greg?
Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm good.
All right. So, Mr. Gava, just give me a letter and I'll sign it and we'll mail it to the appropriate authority.
Will do.
Anything else, John?
Nope.
Brian?
I mean, as a senior citizen, you're laughing, young man.
No, I'm
right
Watch
behind
yourself.
you. I'm right behind you.
Protocol.
I assure you I'm not laughing.
I have been to that office, and every time that I have gone there, which a couple of times I had a couple of issues and needed to get them resolved, and it was good knowing that office was there. And I will tell you, it was packed every time I went there. It's a high demand, evidently very much needed. So, good work, John. You know, and this is a good thing.
And it has been affecting services and where those are being performed. I recently helped a family member who was beginning the process of receiving Social Security benefits, and that family member's claim ended up getting processed by the Social Security office in Jamaica, Queens. Didn't even get assigned locally, so who knows how many delays or other interruptions in services that are so essential to people are at risk here.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a senior, but if you are a senior and you are retired and you're relying on these services, this creates a level of anxiety and sometimes fear, and I just don't appreciate it either. So I'm glad you brought this up, because I did read that. So what did I do? Well, I did with the supervisor here. We went to Carmine Itzvan. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's corrected me for incorrectly pronouncing his last name. Went to his event, what's the name of it, Ann?
Tailgate Talks.
That's it.
Tailgate, that's right. And so with, and I don't know why I messed that up. I keep thinking football, so tailgating. But it was a very worthy event, and there's going to be a series of them with Keep Fishkill Beautiful. And I think the next one is going to be about potentially with gardening involved?
Gardening,
With
using less pesticides.
less pesticides, a lot of important things, which, as someone who likes to grow tomatoes and someone who's very concerned about that, I'm going to enjoy attending that, so everybody look out for that announcement. In addition to that, I made every attempt to get to the St. Patrick's Parade and was blocked. Evidently, we left too late, so all I've heard are good things and how great it was. And I mean, it looks like it was extremely packed more than any other time. And that is, I mean, there are a number of phone calls I did for town business, but that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Brian. So the Roundabout Fire District did give me a letter that I'm going to read right now about the sirens. Dear Roundabout Fire District resident, that would be the area, I would say, east of Route 9, well, east of 52, this way going to the northern east part of the town. Thank you for reaching out to us, sharing your concerns about the siren at the volunteer fire station. We completely understand how disturbing the noise can be, and we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience it has caused you. Our siren is used to alert our volunteer firefighters to emergencies and is essential part of our operations, ensuring that our team can respond quickly and effectively. We are always working to balance the need for quick response times with the comfort of our community, and your feedback is invaluable in helping us improve. We recently discovered an issue with a nighttime timer and have already made some adjustments. We will review the current siren schedule and explore options to minimize the impact on the residents, such as adjusting the volume or changing the timing or certain alerts where possible. Again, we appreciate you bringing this to our attention and thank you for your understanding and support of this important work that our volunteer fire station does for our community. If you have any further questions or suggestions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Roundabout Fire District. Signed, Mr. Mueller, Secretary, Roundabout Fire District. Next.
Are you done?
You want to say something?
Yeah.
No, I'm not
Before
done.
we get into discussions.
No, I'm not done.
Oh, go
You
ahead.
have something to say about this?
No.
You have something to say previously?
I want to add something to a discussion, so.
Okay, so let me finish up first.
Yep.
Mr. Gaba, you remember the Healy issue last year or the year before when that came up?
Which Healy issue? There were a couple.
We did do something, me and Brian, Councilman Rye, we did have a meeting here for the citizens. I remember we did that.
Huge.
We had a huge meeting for the residents of the town. And we also did something with the building inspector. Didn't we appeal his decision?
We appealed to the ZBA.
Okay, so
There was issues with the wall. There was quite a bit done on Healy.
So we did quite a bit. We didn't do anything, right?
Didn't do anything?
No, my apologies. The town did something, correct?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. As for the police department, advertising, it's on our Facebook page, on their website. We've been actively recruiting all over the place. The gentleman, Mr. Carnelli, asked about the curfew. The county website for the Dutchess Rail Trail is to dawn to dusk, and it'll be the same for this trail. Okay? As for ICE, multiple municipalities have been treating this differently just in the state of New York alone. There's no direction right now, so the town is going to continue doing what it's doing, cooperate with any law enforcement agency, and we don't go looking for illegals. We never did that, so we're going to continue doing what we do. And the third part was with ICE detainers, like warrants. So when there's an arrest, if there's an ICE warrant, some municipalities don't hold the criminals. We're going to hold the criminals. Some other police departments have what do you call it, deputized their officers to go out there on the streets to grab some migrants. We're not going to do that. So I think this ICE order is fair, it's direct, and we're going to continue assisting the police, any other law enforcement agency when needed, when they request it. We're not going to go out there looking for people, and if there's a warrant for somebody, we're going to hold them until ICE come gets them. Pretty simple stuff. And like I said, throughout the state of New York, some people don't hold them, some do. Some deputize their officers to go chasing people. We're not going to do that because we don't have the manpower, quite frankly. So I think it's a good thing to give our officers directions because they don't know what they should do. Now they know after tonight, it'll be memorialized with the Town of Fishkill Town Board. My last thing is we should also be considering, I thank John for bringing up the Social Security office. I'm worried about the VA too, because it looks like the VA is going to lose about 72,000 jobs. So is it okay for me to act on my own if I have to do something with the VA?
You know, our chairman of our VA committee is heavily involved over there. So I would just ask that you work with him on coming up with some sort of response potentially.
So if it gets hot, it's okay to freelance? You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just if you don't mind having him involved, that'd be.
And just keep us posted.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're informed at the very least, in case we get questions, we can let people know how, you and Virgil might be acting on that.
Very good, very good. Jackie, you okay with that?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, okay, I'm done, John.
So I'm going to ask to either add for a discussion item to discuss on the consent agenda, Resolution 9818. Can we add that for a discussion item?
What is the item?
The 284 agreement.
Yeah, let's go right into discussion right now and make a motion to accept John's motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's talk about the 284 agreement now.
So I'm looking at the 284 agreement. 284 agreement. So the highway superintendent puts money in a budget that the town board votes on to talk about paving and improving roads in the town. Even when the budget has been adopted, there still has to be another agreement between the highway superintendent and I think the town supervisor, if not all the town board people. Just as another clarification about, this is the money that's set aside, here are the roads that are going to be paved, all that good stuff. So I believe there was $800,000 put into our budget for road improvements.
A little more than that, correct?
And why are we only agreeing to spend no more than $315,000?
Because you and other people have had questions about spending too much money in the highway department, and I decided to cut it out to bring back up the fund balance. And by the way, you voted against that budget.
I did.
So I'm taking your advice and you're complaining about it.
No.
Yes, you are.
The residents are paying for $800,000 of road improvements, and you're deciding that we're only going to spend $315,000.
That's first of all, again, you voted against it, so how can you advocate for something that you voted against? That alone should disqualify even talking about this.
Okay.
Then.
That's your opinion.
Well, my opinion is, you had a concern that the fund balance in the highway line item was getting too low. Should be around 10-12%, it's down to about 5%. And I'm gonna bring it back up, and how do you bring it back up? You slow down the spending. So I listened to
So you ask the people to spend their money in taxes,
No.
but we're not going to pave your roads, even though we say we're going to pave your roads.
that agreement.
That's wrong, Ozzy.
That agreement.
That is
right
wrong.
there. No, it's not wrong.
Yes, it is.
Listen, you voted against the budget.
I know I did.
You complained that that line was getting too low. I took your advice, I listened to you, and I made some cuts preemptively to make sure.
Don't put it on me, Ozzy.
John,
This is wrong.
You were here on TV complaining about it.
This is wrong.
What do you want? You want both? You want to pave roads and vote no and take credit for it and complain that the budget's getting worse on the highway line? I don't know what you want.
You don't take money.
What money?
The highway money.
Yeah, that money
That's
goes-
$800,000. That's already in the budget now.
And that
It's already in
money-
a line item.
Yes.
We're only going to release $315,000?
And we're going to keep the rest of that in the highway budget.
Why?
And the fund balance.
Why?
Because I want to bring the fund balance back up.
The roads have to be paved today.
The roads that need to be paved will be paved. The fund balance is around 5%. I want to bring it up to
Oh,
10.
so we overestimated $800,000 in the budget? Is that what you're saying?
The job is to reevaluate as we go along. And I heard your advice. You complained.
I did complain.
You voted
And
no.
This is the wrong way to handle this.
How would you handle it? What would you do? Cut about 5 highway guys? What would you do? I'd like to know.
I'm not going to answer it right now.
Because the auditors came in for the last 3 days here, and it's going to be a tight budget, and the town's probably spent maybe 15, 20 million in highway since 2020. You voted for everything. You're at all the press releases, at all the photo ops, taking credit for the parks and roads and the facilities, and now you're here telling me, oh, wait, why did I cut this money? Because you voted against the budget, because you were saying, what was your term? What was it, deficit spending? You said deficit spending.
Irresponsible.
Irresponsible. And I like to remind the citizen of Fishkill, in the 2023 budget, he cut $750,000 because it was reckless.
It was.
And that's going to come back. And that's going to come back to bite us in the hiney for 2026.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You have to watch your spending. Okay? What you're doing is wrong.
That's what I just did.
$800,000 that you asked the taxpayers to fund, and now we're gonna put $500,000
Yes.
in a rainy day fund.
Yes.
When the roads have to be paved today.
Yes, which is it, John? I can take, listen,
May I get in on this?
Don't spin it on me, Oz. You're making
Yes.
a wrong decision.
listen,
I'm
fund
just,
balance is important
I'm just
to
a
me.
little confused, and perhaps, John, you can sort of set me straight here, but, you know, the residents of the town of Fishkill don't adopt the budget, the board does.
Correct.
That's what they elect us to do, and part of that involves managing the budget throughout the course of the year. So you're framing it like the supervisor sort of sold the budget to the residents of the town of Fishkill, and they gave him the go-ahead on it, and now he's changing it on them, altering the deal when there was no deal in place between the supervisor and the residents of the town of Fishkill. The supervisor and the town board levy a certain amount of funds in taxes, and then are responsible for allocating those funds in a responsible way. You objected to the allocation of a certain amount of funds during the last budget process. The supervisor has responded by reducing the amount of money that is being spent, and now you're complaining about it. I just
Now the
don't, I just
residents
don't
have
see
to
how they
suffer.
Residents are suffering, this town is in great shape, and I
Okay.
just like to further.
Supervisor, have you spoken with the highway superintendent
Yes, he's
about
good.
it? Has he objected at all?
He's good.
Has he
I'm
voiced
sure.
any concern about the idea
He's
that
good.
roads aren't
He's-
being
The roads
properly
that,
tended to?
the roads that he needs to do, he's doing, not a problem.
So this is the highway superintendent himself who was actually seeing this.
Yes.
this
So he put
had no
forward
objection?
a fugazi budget then. Is that what you're saying?
No, he did not.
Okay.
No, he did
So
not.
what,
Your Councilman Foreman complained that we were deficit spending. I took action to slow that down. Now he's complaining. Now I'd like to remind you what he did in the 2023 budget.
Yeah.
Not only did he cut $750,000 from the budget, in that budget, we borrowed money for 2 trucks, preparing for the PBA contract, and you have those extra reserves so you can prepare in the future. Okay, so as the
That's what towns
executive.
do.
That's what towns do, except John Foreman, and the citizens of Fishkill are lucky that you lost, because you would have screwed this town up big time.
Yeah.
Not only that, the next year after, they borrowed up to $2 million, they spent about $1.7 million, and I voted no to bond out 3 more big trucks. Okay? How do you pay for that? You gotta take it out the fund balance, which he complains about. So, I'm just trying to make things right, fixing his problem.
don't spin it on me.
Councilman
Oz.
Foreman, you ran all over the place saying the $750,000 you cut, which I was under the cap,
Yeah.
complaining, it was reckless. It was a $4 difference. Instead of a $10 increase in taxes, it dropped it to $6. So for $4, the next year budget is probably gonna cost us between $40 and maybe $80 to fix his mistake.
Geez, last
So-
time I checked, I voted that way, and Brian voted that way,
Yeah.
and Carmine voted that
Yeah.
way, and Louise voted that way.
And they were all wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Ozzy's right, and everybody's wrong.
Well, I mean, the math speaks for itself. It's not a question of right or wrong. The math is the math. It's $750,000 year one. It continues over. It's not like it's a
Yes.
one-year thing. Because when you change the tax levy, that becomes.
We cut out
I'm sorry, I just don't
excessive
need to finish my
spending,
sentences,
Greg.
I guess.
You have to be able to have reserves for the future. You don't understand that.
No, I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I
No,
do.
you don't.
Ozzy, I was in the
John.
legislature for 12 years.
Yeah.
I know all about reserves.
Yes.
You're the one who likes to dip into the reserves and spend.
And I'm just saving
Again,
$600,000.
dipping into the reserves and spending, the reserves are shrinking by $2.2 million.
I wonder why.
And again, am I allowed to finish the thought?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, one moment. The reserves are $2.2 million lower than they would have been had you not decided to cut most people's taxes by about $4. Because that isn't just a single year effect, it compounds. There's now debt services that the town has to pay out in about $1.6 million because thanks in part to the budget cuts that you instituted, the town needed to bond out to make essential purchases. You talk about trying to clamp down on excessive spending, but you have not identified a single item that should be cut from the budget, but complain about the amount of money the supervisor spends, then complain when he actually tries to cut spending when he's identified a way to try to save money and worked with the department head, a fellow elected official, to streamline the process and save the taxpayers money. It just seems like there's no way to please you.
There is none. Are you done, John?
I am done.
Brian, anything? No, on this matter? Jackie?
Not at this
All
point.
right, thank you. Next up is the discussion of the 2 property maintenance violations on Route 52 and Van Wyck Road will take 1 and 2. Can we just table both of these to the next meeting, Mr. Galvin? and tell them
Well,
why?
these are both technically, they aren't public hearings, but they're opportunities to be heard.
Okay.
So what you should do is note that it's the opportunity to be heard for Van Wyck, and you should table it based on, the reason it's being tabled,
Speak in the mic, please.
the reason it's being tabled is we were able to contact the property owner. The property owner has made certain representations that development of the property is going forward. His attorney, who said he wants to come in further detail the plans for the property and what's going to be done, was unable to make it for this evening. And so they've asked that it be adjourned. I believe the discussion was to March 19th.
Next meeting is
Our
the
next
17th.
meeting.
So the proper thing to do
Is
is to
okay.
open the hearing, which isn't a public hearing, it's just an opportunity for them to come, and then, because they aren't here, immediately adjourn it to March 19th.
Okay.
Now, the same thing with the other one, Route 52. The problem with Route 52 is that we were unable to find the residents of the property
Vice
owners.
versa, Van Wyck, we couldn't find the property owner. Route 52, 82, we found the person, they asked for the adjournment. Van Wyck couldn't find the property owner.
Do I have those backwards? All right, I
Yes.
apologize, I thought it was
You
the
mean
other
where
way
the
around.
home and all the cars are?
Yeah.
They can't find somebody that owns it?
We're trying, man.
Well, no, I'm not putting it down, I'm just like, that's weird, you know?
Well,
So-
the record address is listed in Philadelphia, and she doesn't live in Philadelphia.
Oh.
So we did a skip search on her, and Ozzy did some sleuthing as well as far as that goes, and we believe that we found her address. We're not sure, but we think so. And we're going to try to effect service, because you have to serve the notice on her, prior to, I think the next meeting's a little too soon. You want to give more notice. I would go for the first meeting in April.
Okay.
So
So let's keep them both together. Can we do one
that
more?
would be just
I want to
fine.
keep both these together.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Excuse me. The Van Wyck, is somebody paying taxes on that?
I didn't look at it. Yeah, we're getting.
So if
somebody
someone's
doesn't pay
paying taxes on it.
There's mortgages on both these
Yes.
properties. We've served the mortgagees as well.
Oh, I see, okay,
Yes.
all right.
Anything, John?
Nope.
Anybody here?
No, no.
The first meeting in April for both.
You can reach
So
out to the
you
representation.
declare the
for
hearings, the two
52.
hearings open, you declare the two hearings open, you adjourn them to the first meeting in April.
So right now, we're having hearings right now?
Yes, you are. You're going to declare the hearings open, and you're going to adjourn. What you should do is declare the two hearings open.
Let's do
and
it right. Let's do number one first. Let's do the, so what should I do?
Declare the hearing open, no one will appear, and then you adjourn it to the first meeting in April.
I'll make an adjournment to move it to the first.
You
You declare it first.
I'll make a motion to open up the hearing. Can I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now what?
No one appears? No one
No one
appears.
appears.
No one's here? Okay.
So now you adjourn it until,
I'd like to adjourn it till the first April meeting. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, again?
Aye.
Aye.
All of us,
All right.
yeah.
Second one is the violation for Route 8252. I make a motion to open up the hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody, nobody's here to appear? Okay.
adjourn it.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn till the first meeting in April. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're good to go, Mr. Gaba? All right. Number three, the award system. I'm just going to be real quick with this. I'd just like to have Mr. Gaba write up something of how a simple creation of a special election, how we can do it streamlined. And in between then, I'd like to have the pros and cons of the award system. That's all I'm going to say. You guys can say what you want.
And again, from a legal fact-based standpoint only, no political rhetoric,
Yes.
pro or con, simply a statement of facts of potential risk-reward, pro-con
Are
type
you
thing.
talking about a memorandum or a resolution or what?
What do you guys want to do? You guys, listen.
A memo, I think, is...
Well, if we do a resolution, we could amend it and then have them finish, and then we can send it to the residents. What do you guys think?
The resolution on the memo?
The pros and cons of the memo.
No,
No,
not the
award.
pros and
Yeah,
cons.
no.
That's clearly got to be a memo. The process that the town would follow in a special election, we could do a resolution on if you're so inclined.
So
Well,
we
and
would
that's-
be establishing the rules for a special election, but we wouldn't be actually setting one. We'd be simply saying, if we were to set one, here's how we would do it.
Correct.
Well,
I'm in favor of a resolution for that.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Can
You
we,
could do that. Go ahead.
can we discuss this a
Brian.
little bit
Yeah,
first
of
here?
course.
Yeah, discuss.
You know, because there are a number of issues along with this that I've been looking at, and I'm trying to find my spot here, so bear with me one second. I'm looking, and I may take a few minutes, so you guys bear with me, all right?
John, you have anything to say?
Just, I am not convinced that our town clerk has the experience in running a special election here in the town, although I would like to hear it out of her mouth rather than me speculating. But I just don't, when I hear special election, I mean, I'm listening June, July, August. Is that what we're talking about?
I'm not even.
Okay.
Listen, I'm waiting to hear something from downstate, and then I'll
Okay.
decide which way I want to go with this.
So, listen, I really, go ahead. No. I could care less whether we have a ward system or not, to be honest with you. But I do think, and I firmly believe, that the Board of Elections should be running our elections. They can easily put this on the ballot in November, when we're going to have a huge turnout, a much bigger turnout than we will if we have it in June, July, or August, to be honest with you. And we had a referendum in November to sell the piece of property up near the park. 89% of the people flipped over the ballot and voted yes or no on that referendum. So there is no reason that we need to rush through this and hodgepodge it with people who've never run elections before. We can just do it in November, and I really don't care whether we have wards or not. That's up to the people to decide.
Yeah, listen, the process of government, people think this is a big deal. Less than 50 years ago, the town board was comprised of a supervisor, 2 judges, and 2 council persons. Things change, and this is an exercise to see whether we do it or not. I'm not 100% sure on it. I have worries about downstate, what could go in there. My job, I passed term limits. I can't be here more than another 6 years. I'm done. I worry 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And if there's something I can do to make sure Fishkill is healthy in the future, I'm going to set that into place. To say that the town clerk can't handle a simple election, listen, you got a guy running Washington who's never been a politician. That Doge thing that you mentioned, Elon Musk, I'm sure maybe he's doing a good job, maybe he's not, but we don't know that.
Have you had a discussion with the town clerk about running this election? No, of course not.
I'm just gonna weigh in quickly.
I don't think
just
it's a big
I
deal.
want to make sure that we're understanding here that the resolution which the supervisor is proposing the attorney create is not regarding a ward system. It is under this particular topic here because that is what gave rise to that question. But the resolution which the town attorney would prepare would simply lay out the rules by which the town at any point in the future would hold a special election on, am I mistaken?
You're close. At any point in the future this year, you can only bind the sitting board as to the provisions you're going to undertake.
Okay, because
You
the
can't
term
go
limit rules.
to next year, there's going to be an
Got
election.
it, understood. I remember that from the Rolling Hills situation. So I appreciate the clarification. So I understand okay, well, let's not rush into the ward system. I think a further discussion on that is appropriate and necessary. But if we were to decide to move forward, we would need to have every option available to us, simply allowing the attorney to lay out a groundwork that we could follow. And may I add, if the board were to wait until future years to make a determination on this or another issue that might require a special election, having a resolution which we could use as a framework or a guideline for that would be useful to us in the future, even if this particular resolution wouldn't be binding. Then it would be useful as a blueprint or a something that we could sort of copy and build off of for use in the future. So I am with you on let's not rush into deciding about holding an election, either a special election or during the general, regarding a ward system. I think there's more information we need to figure out. There's more discussion that needs to be had on that, both here at this dais and with the public before we get to that. But by all means, let's put ourselves in a position that if we were to decide to move forward at some point, we are arming ourselves with the broadest range of possibilities to do it in the best interest of the residents. That's all I'm saying. Having the attorney draft a resolution that would lay out a procedure doesn't obligate us to go down that road or any road. It just gives us the option to do so if the board decides that's what we want to do. And I'll be the first to say, I'm not looking to rush headlong into this. I'm not.
So, Mr. Galba,
Can I ask a question?
Let Jackie go first. Jackie?
Yeah,
Fine,
is
go
this
for it.
something that we need to codify? Is this something that we need to codify, or is it just like a process?
Can I just point something out real quick?
Let her finish, Brian.
No, well, I know, but you guys, did you read this memo? Because it's all right
Yeah,
here,
but
special
not
election
everybody in the
procedure.
audience got the memo.
Everything is in
that's right,
here.
it is in
Everything
there.
is in here.
I'm just thinking that there was something confidential also sent us.
It's not confidential.
No, we did receive something confidential. in
I can't
the
even
email.
hear
That's
you.
what
Speaking
I was thinking there was something we received that was confidential that
You would have
may
said-
not have gotten out
It would have
into the
said
public.
confidential.
There were some points in there.
Usually has confidential on it.
So what my point is I'm kind of on the same line where Greg is, that there may come a point where we need to act quickly. And if we have everything, all our ducks in a row, we will be able to do so. And, maybe it's not going to be what we think it is. Maybe it's not around the corner. Maybe it is something in the future. But it doesn't mean we can't be prepared. We prepare ourselves for all types of disasters, natural or whatever.
I wrote the response plan.
So, I don't think it's a bad idea to be prepared.
Okay, Brian, you got the floor.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you. Well, I'm just looking at, the information that Mr. Gaba has already prepared for us. And the document that I'm talking about is actually in the agenda packet, but there's also another document in here in the agenda packet about the ward system. He has the ward system, and one special election procedure. I'm saying this for people who have not looked at this. Take a look at it, and it really lays it out as far as, and I'm going to take a few minutes here, so everybody be patient. Basically, in the memo subject, the ward system, we do discuss, our present state of governance, which I know everything evolves, government evolves, things evolve, there's no doubt about it, but there are certain aspects of a constancy that are also very, very good. So I am not wildly for the ward system, and consequently, I know I'm definitely not wildly for rushing into making our clerk, who is not here, unfortunately, to answer these questions about how she can handle the office, handle this type of thing. But I did have an offline conversation with her, and I will tell you, I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but there was nothing positive that I gained from her commentary about this. We have, since 1788, right there, since 1788, we have had this form of government.
No.
Yeah, well, that's my research. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
We have had
the two judges that's named after these two rooms.
If we had a supervisor,
Judge Hancock and Judge Cross, both were, what was it, a supervisor, two judges, and two council persons.
Right, not to mention when we
so
had it.
that's the form. Excuse me. That's the formation of the board, because obviously it's a smaller town and a smaller at the time, and so things have evolved from then.
So things have evolved, because let's remember that when we first had a town, you couldn't vote in the election unless you owned land and were a white man, and then you could vote if you were black after.
I don't know why you're going down that road. I really thought that you didn't like being interrupted. So if I could just talk about that, a couple of people down here have, but that's all right. I'll proceed. This is just bringing up some points to discuss. I'm not arguing with anyone. This is just a major thing with me, as I'm sure it is for you all. But I have major concerns for this, for the sake of the town. And one of the things that
Are we talking the ward system, or are we talking the special elections? Let's separate those two things.
I started out with the ward system, and I'm going into special election.
Okay, but I want to separate them. Going forward, a resolution that shows how we can do a special election for the remainder of the year if we decide to do it. And then we'll decide whether we put it up for a vote for the ward system.
Can we just let Brian finish his little piece
Sure.
right here?
I just want to do it as two separate things now.
Okay. So, as I said, I'm talking about the ward system, and then there's special election right here. So, as I've heard the commentary about future issues that may come along, and a ward system might provide some stability, I understand that. I understand a lot of things about the ward system. One of the things, I don't necessarily like it because I like what we do now, which is town-wide representation. Yes, we would still have an obligation as board members or the future makeup of the board to take care of town-wide issues, but you're going to be more concerned about your ward than anything else. And in every town that I've talked with people who have a ward system, there's just constant fighting. You think there's fighting now. I'm going to make this brief because we're going to be discussing this again. Obviously, I was going to get a little lengthy here because I didn't know that. I thought Becky was traveling another day. But as I look at this special election procedure memo, people. So if the town board determines to hold the proposed referenda at the general election in November, all right, you got two things that will happen. Adopt a resolution putting the question of adopting a ward system and or 2 town board seats out for referendum. That's what we would do, adopt that. And prior to August 25, have the clerk send a certified copy of the resolution to the County Board of Elections along with a letter requesting to have the specific referenda questions put on the ballot where people have an opportunity in a broader vote in November to vote for this. And we have such smart people in this town. They know how to turn a ballot over. I've seen it. Anyway, so if we go to a special referendum, which this town has never held one, our clerk has never conducted one, then we have basically in the memo, I've gone through it, and it looks to me as if there are 15 steps, 15 important steps in here that this clerk would have to make sure that she followed and make sure that she was perfect on, who has never held an election, who has never sent out the notices for that, has never designed a ballot for that, has never gotten all the ballots out to all the people, has never notified them where the election is going to. I can go on and on and on about the specifics. Designed a ballot. Seems to me that that's a course in college, how to design a ballot. What I'm getting at is that you're putting way too much pressure on, and I don't agree with this. Let's be prepared for all contingencies. We're creating something here. That's all we're doing. If people on this board want to pursue the question with the population of this town on whether or not we should move from townwide representation, okay, and yes, the construct of the board has changed from 1788 to now, but it's still a townwide representation with a supervisor. I will say that there needs to be more time for education. There needs to be more time for the town to have scrutiny. And in fact, I just listed, it was a stream of consciousness in the back of the special election procedure in the packet, just some things to consider. And a standalone website if we're doing something like this so we can have all the issues put along and people have an easy reference, pros and cons of the ward system. Once you do a ward system, then you're going to have to create the wards on a map, and that's got to be approved. And it's all about who's going to do that. You see, it's all this construct out there. It's not just, oh, let's go to the ward system. It's layers and layers and layers for a special election that will puts way too much pressure on this office that can merely be handled by the Dutchess County Board of Elections, and all those people do is run elections. They know how to get the people out here. They know how to get the machines out here. We have to get the machines out here. We have to do everything they do and put it on this person right here. And there's no shaking your head about that being such simplicity, because you're not going to be the one responsible for it. This is something that could be tripped up at any particular point in time and cause a lawsuit, and cause problems, and cause issues. All you got to do, if you're determined to go and pursue this, is have the Dutchess County Board of Elections handle it in November. Therefore, we don't have all of this possibility of screwing up hiring, budgeting for, getting the machines, getting the location, everything they do, the Board of Elections. Now, this office, who has other things to do, other responsibilities, now you're going to throw this layer on. It's just, I'm sorry, I'm going to use the word, it's completely irresponsible. That's all I'm going to say.
It's irresponsible not to protect the citizens of the town of Fishkill. That's what's irresponsible. Anyway,
I'm not going to go into the merits of the ward system. We've had the discussion.
Yes.
There are more discussions for the future. You made some very, I think, reasonable points, Brian, but all of the points that you made are reasons why you oppose holding an election about a ward system. None of the reasons
Special.
that you, right. Special election, or even to an extent an election at all about a ward system.
No, I said do it in November.
Clear.
I said do it in November. It's really the words that came out of my mouth.
Well, I hear what you're saying. You have
Evidently you got a little screwed up, but go ahead.
Let's just move on.
Yeah.
So how many times in the past did he say that he didn't think that we should be holding a vote on that at all, that the ward system simply wasn't necessary? Regardless.
Go home and watch the tape.
So let's move on. So Mr. Gaba, present a resolution for us as the next town board meeting, the process to hold a special election, make it as simple as possible, and I plan on voting on it on the 19th.
Are you gonna have a date?
The 19th.
Again, the resolution does not set a special election. The resolution determines the procedures by which the town would set a special election if it were to hold one. This is a distinction which I feel perhaps the two of you have not made, because Brian's point was...
Why don't we disagree on having it in November, and we can cut out a lot of this nonsense?
There is no nonsense.
I got the capacity to understand.
Okay, so
Greg.
Mr. Gaba...
It's okay, thanks.
On the 19th,
I'll have it for the next meeting.
resolution.
Absolutely.
Once we pass the resolution, then we'll talk about the ward system, the pros and cons, and decide whether we even do an election, okay? So we'll get public input, we'll do the pros and cons, we'll send it out to the town email, we'll invite the public to come here and speak, and we'll see what they say. I have reservations. I think I can get the ward system passed. I'm not sure I can get the 6 wards. And without the 6, it defeats what I want to get done to protect the town. So I have my own personal back and forth with this stuff.
I'm not personally a fan of elections every 2 years.
Yes.
I think that overcomplicates things. It puts people who are sitting on the town board in a position where they're constantly campaigning for something. And I'm not a huge fan of that either. So again, I don't think anyone here is trying to ram a ward system down the throats of the residents of Fishkill.
We have 4-year terms, Greg.
We used to have, what he's saying is we had 2-year terms. We changed
A
that.
ward system would revert to a 2-year term and put
And supervisor.
and put council members and supervisor in a position where they are constantly in campaign mode. And that would, I think, to a large extent defeat the purpose that I supported of trying to reduce the geographic scale of a campaign for a candidate to make it easier for them to manage one. Well, what's the point of making it easier to run a campaign if you constantly have to run one?
Absolutely.
In order to get reelected every 2 years.
So
So
Mr.
I'm not 100% on this. But I think we should have an understanding of the procedure if we were to go in the direction of letting the people of the town of Fishkill decide.
So Mr. Gaba is going to do the resolution for the next meeting. Cooper, let's table number 3 to the first meeting of April.
Now, point of order, Supervisor,
I have
did we do anything with discussion number 2? Is that
Yeah, we took care of
handled
that.
with
It's
discussion
done.
1?
It's done.
I wanted to make sure, because
We took care of it.
Okay.
Number 4, discussion of highway superintendent to review the need for a 3-way stop sign at Old Glenham Road in Maple. I talked to the highway superintendent. He does not seem to be for it.
Yeah, I mean, I put this up here because Jeff Phillips, the president of Slater Chemical, said it was an issue, and he felt we should discuss it, and I said I would put it on the agenda for a discussion And of course, I've talked to Carmine too, and he doesn't see where you can put signs, that's number one. But I think he's writing something to give to us that we could answer Slater with, so.
So we should keep it open, or we should say give you the letter and you give it to Slater? What do you want to do?
I kind of feel that we could close it and let him deal directly with them. That's all I was hoping to do was have him communicate with them, whether or not that was possible.
Thank you. Cooper, close number 4.
Okay.
Number 5, discuss planning board recommendations for hiring a hydrologist, consultant for Fishkill Commerce Center. That would be the second warehouse and back of the Duchess Mall. Mr. Cantor, just give us a minute of why you want to do this. Come to the podium, please. This is our planning board chairman, Mr. Cantor.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, this is the large proposed warehouse facility on the Fishkill Golf Course property. And at the planning board's February meeting, we had solicited proposals from 4 different consultants, hydrogeologists, to help the planning board with our review of this large warehouse facility, 388,000 square feet, plus or minus. It's a big one. It would be the second one in that same area. The difference with this site is that there's an aquifer underlying the property, there's a New York State wetland on the property and adjacent, there's a stream, and pretty much the whole site is in a floodplain.
Are they going to use public sewer, or are they going to have their own septic?
That's part of the issue we're looking at. Right now, the applicant is not able to connect with the public sewer, and so they're proposing an on-site septic system directly over the aquifer.
Got it.
And this is also in our aquifer protection zone.
This is why we need these guys to...
This is why we need assistance in the review.
Any questions?
So we did, the board authorized sending a letter to the board. I'm hoping that board members got it. It was provided to the clerk's office, and along with the materials from the preferred hydrogeologist. But if there are any questions about that, I can answer those.
Councilman Foreman has a question.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here tonight. Who would be paying for this?
This would be paid by the applicant through the escrow accounts that are established.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yep,
Brian, any
absolutely.
No, I would be anxious to see the results of that report. There's no doubt about it. The items that you just pointed out, are a bit of concern, no doubt. Can I ask you a sidebar question on the other project that's right there, if you guys don't mind? One second.
Sure.
Is that out of your purview now, the other thing that evidently warehouse that was, I think, approved? And what can you tell me on its status right now? Because maybe you heard earlier, I know you did, that people are disgusted and we talk about gateway. This ain't much of a gateway right now. It's disgusting, and what's the status? Who's taking it over, and how can?
So, Mr. Cantor, they had preliminary approval, correct?
They have final approval. They have conditional final approval, and they've come back for extensions one time. I'll just mention the applicant is scheduled to come back before the planning board at our March 13th meeting next week to request another extension. They're requesting actually a fairly long extension, and I'm not so sure we want to give a long extension. I think we at most might be willing to give a shorter, like 3-month extension. But this is all so that they can work out some of the outside agency approvals, like health department and that type of thing.
So do we have to give them, do we have to extend their approvals, like when they come in next week?
Well, that's a question we'll be asking our attorney.
Okay. And then when they're done with those other contingencies, like DOT, health department, you sign off on that before you sign the site plan? How does that work?
There will usually be some remaining conditions that have to be met before the planning board chair, myself, signs the site plan.
And when you sign the site plan, he can go to the building inspector and get a building permit?
Right, exactly.
Okay. So let me ask a question. Can they do that today, get you to sign off on the site plan? Have you signed off on the site plan?
No.
So there's still some conditions they have to
Correct, and that's why they're going to be asking for an extension.
How many things do they got left, do you know?
I couldn't tell you offhand, but it's several. It's,
3, 4?
yeah, probably 3 or 4.
Can you let the board members know when you get an answer to that?
Yeah.
We'd like to know.
Yeah, and we'll be discussing it at next week's meeting
Thank
also,
you.
so it'll be public.
John's got one more.
Is it normal for the applicant to come in and say extension after extension? I mean, you obviously ask why you need the extension. And, I mean, are they giving you legitimate reasons why they're looking for extensions?
So far, yes, legitimate reasons, but, you know, we're beginning, and with the very reasons you're all thinking about, the current condition of that site being terrible and a real eyesore and safety issues. You know, I'm sort of going back and forth between whether the planning board should press the town board and the building inspector a little bit more than we have for doing something even in the interim with that building.
Is the idea to knock the building down and build on top of it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the reason.
So we're getting different points of view from different people about whether or how that demolition process could start without going through the full site plan approval, but that's something you guys will have to decide.
In your process, educate me, so you give an extension, whatever length it is. Do you ever have a cutoff with this and just say, you know what, we're done here, you guys are dragging this out forever, ever, and what's the point? Or is it not really something that you do because it is someone trying to work and develop their property or their deal? And just educate me on that, because, you know, I don't know how much longer people are going to be patient with this, and, you know.
Yeah. It's not typical for more than, say, 2 sets of extensions to happen. This would be basically their I guess, second requested extension. But, yeah, it's not common that we go through multiple extensions. I mean, I'm not quite sure what we would do if we had to think about that. Normally, it's really a matter of getting, say, health department approval, which does take sometimes a longer time than you would think. And state DOT, you know, is another one of them. So right now, I think we're in the spot where, you know, it's probably okay to grant another extension, but they're requesting, I'm trying to remember, don't take my word for it here, but it'll be in our agenda, which will be, I think, coming out pretty soon. But I think they're asking for a 6-month extension, and I'm probably going to suggest to the board to consider maybe a 90-day extension instead of 6 months.
Okay.
Anyway, that's a preview of our next meeting.
That was a good discussion. Thank you, Mr. Cantor.
Thank you.
Tonight.
Sure.
That was a good discussion, guys.
If you have any more
Ladies.
questions, let me know.
That was good. Thank you very much. Next up is Brian's and Greg's film permit application.
This is Brian's baby.
Brian's baby.
I gotta give him the credit where it's due.
Is it ready for a resolution?
No, I think we need to discuss it. We need to discuss it first.
I'm ready to go. It's a film permit, right?
Yeah, we want to just get it done with, I know, you know, but maybe we can tweak it a little bit and then put it on for resolution next meeting, you know, but basically, I had a good discussion with Sarah Wilson at your office, and I asked her to look at this because I took a lot of applications from all over the place and just kind of compiled it, and I said, okay, take it and make sure, you know, we're in compliance wherever that may come into question. And I know, Mr. Gabby, you'll correct me here if I miss anything. Basically, I think everything kind of speaks for itself. I don't really know. I mean, you're talking about, you know, the completed application fee of $35. That's generally, as you can see, there's a
not enough.
No, that's fine. But, you know, because you don't want to kill them. It's just we want to cover office costs. Just to submit the application and whatever they got to do in the office. That's basically it. If they feel like they need to get a couple of bucks, whatever, that's fine. But I don't think we want to hit them up with that. When we get into fees, I took this from Town of Poughkeepsie, per Sarah Wilson, because it helps us and gives us guidance when we get later into this thing on what fees to charge if they're using town assets, like a park, or would they need police, et cetera, et cetera. Going through this, town clerk's office at least 30 days prior, filing at least 30 days prior to some sort of production is, I think, a reasonable thing that we discussed. Second page, there's nothing really here that we need to worry about that I understand. They just need to show that they have the insurances and what kind of production are you, and et cetera, et cetera. Who is the person that, if there is any issues, that we can communicate with, et cetera. They need to get all that valid information. So here we get into the next page, page 3, and we're talking about the use of public park property. And this is where, early on in this process, I actually sent this around to Carmine and our then chief of police to say, so what would you charge if? But now, because we have a new PBA contract, and now that the highway is unionized, there are layers of let's say expenses that are new, so they need to look at this, and the idea is potentially to give a range of costs that would maybe cover costs for in the parks or on a street or a sidewalk or a municipal building, come up with a range of low end and high end depending upon how many days you're going to be shooting. And trust me, we get this thing finalized and we put it out there, I think it'll be just fine, but there may be over time. Everyone that I've talked to has said always you're going to learn things and tweak it, so that's perfectly fine. Mr. Gabbard, chime in here if I'm missing anything. We go down to proposed duration for film and or production. Here's the question though: for 5 days or less, do they go just to the clerk and file and get on with it and prove they have insurances and da-da-da-da-da? I think that's fine. For 6 days or more, come to the town board. Well, if they're asked to file 30 days in advance and then shooting 6 days or more, that would give them time to come before the town board. It's also been my experience, not too extensive, but a little bit, that people want to just find out and get on with it, and et cetera, et cetera. So was there any? Did you agree with this particular point right there, or did you have a comment?
I thought that the form itself was very good. Overall, it really lets people know what it is they need to do.
Come closer.
It's a very good form. Overall, it lets people know what they need to do. There were a couple issues, as Brian alluded to. You're going to want to treat one-day photo shoots that go to the town clerk different from 5 or 6 day photo shoots. Right now, the form says that you have to submit it 30 days before the photo shoot. That's got to be changed. I think you want to separate out the changes to the town's fee schedule from the form itself. And you'll have 2 resolutions, one amending the town's fee schedule and the other one adopting the form. As to the amounts to be charged, I know you guys think $35 for an application fee is fine. I think you're light. I think you got to look at least $50, but I mean, that's a policy decision. It's up to you. In terms of charging for police assistance or highway department assistance, I would I'd suggest picking a rounded dollar figure, because I don't think it's fair to the town to say, well, this is what we pay hourly for our employees. You also have overhead to maintain these departments, everything from vehicles to heat and light, et cetera. Exactly. So, I mean, if you want to pick a number, $100 an hour, $90 an hour, $150, whatever it is you think's fair, and then you talk with Carmine and you talk with Commissioner Bierce, and you'll figure out what would be an appropriate figure, and you just plug that in. But I think, again, a separate resolution from the form. But you're close on this. I think first week in April, maybe?
So basically, we've got everything pretty good. Change, I don't see anything wrong with going to $50. That's not going to kill anyone. That's fine, you know what I mean? But
I was just throwing that out there.
Well, I mean, maybe we need just to make sure we're covering any costs. So that's. I would rather have a little bit more than a little less. What's that?
John's got a question.
Oh, John, what?
Just a quick question on the insurance part.
Oh, yeah.
The liability is $2 million for property damage and personal injury.
Right.
I mean, typically they're 1 million, 2 million.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out. Hadn't gotten to that page yet, because that was an issue that, and I copied that from some other towns, so what do I know from insurance costs, right? But that's one thing that Sarah was pointing out, was that might be too much to ask, and she was thinking 1 million, 1 million. What do you think?
Typically, it's 1 million, 2 million.
Okay.
Go with John.
Go with John.
I mean, I look at a lot of the certificates that come through, and a lot of them are 1 million, 2 million, 1 million, 2
The
million.
people who are doing these film shoots are not going to have a problem coming up with that type of a certificate insurance.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a student, we waive the fees and everything anyway, so.
Yeah, and that's the thing, if they're, to discuss that, if they are a student film, they certainly have to prove, and show that they are, this is indeed a project from, let's say, Vassar, where they have a film college. So I asked Sarah, I said, well, if they're a student film, then, they're all about writing a script, getting a camera, getting a cast, and going out and shooting. They don't have budgets, maybe for bagels, but that's about it. So I said, how do we know that they're covered in insurance if they're shooting on our property around here, and she was saying, well, if they're a student and proving that they're a student, then that college insurance would cover them in their program as well.
It might, but it depends.
What do you think?
It depends. If it's being sponsored by the college, then certainly it would. If it's something you're doing for a class, almost certainly would not.
Yeah. So what
Anybody who wants to come on town property and shoot, they should have insurance. And it shouldn't matter if they're a student or whoever, because if there's an accident and somebody gets sued, the town shouldn't be footing the bill to defend the case.
All right.
So, I mean, but a lot of these, they're going to be doing it on private property, or,
That's
you got to take a look at it as far as that goes. But I think as a general rule, 1 million, 2 million is good coverage.
Okay, fine. That's fine.
So the first meeting of April, Mr. Gallo?
I think it should.
Thank you.
What do you
Good
think,
work,
Brian?
I mean, I'm fine, I just, listen, I'll find out what the fees are out there. I'll work with Scotty, I'll work with Carmine, and make sure that we can come up with a fee schedule, and really, just a couple of other tweaks, hopefully it's just, can get it done. But I'll let everybody know if there's any hiccups. So.
Excellent.
Good job, Brian and Greg.
Thank you, Greg. Best input I had from you.
All right, number 7, tax cert, everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Everybody good? Over here? Okay. Next up, number 8, discuss a resolution to authorize year-end budget modifications of the 2024 operating budget. So everything is squared away. As I mentioned earlier, we had our outside auditors here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and these 3 chairs here going after everything for our outside audit. That's in the pipeline. Looking good. Any questions on it? No. Guys over there? No. Okay. Now it's privilege of the floor for agenda items only. Mr. Cardinale?
Hello again, Anthony Cardinale. Ward system. What problem is this trying to solve? Because just based on the little bit of conversations that there was tonight, it seems like this is trying to make campaigning easier. I'm not sure how this is helping residents.
That was one of the things that had me supporting it, but again, I'm sort of wavering on that. The supervisor introduced it for more protectionary reasons.
I'm concerned of a not-for-profit coming into our remaining few parcels left and running the town of Fishkill. Simple as that, to prevent that from happening.
So how does a ward system present, because my understanding of a ward system is that each of the board members is going to be then responsible, for lack of better terms, for a specific area of the town.
Correct. So for example, if there's 4 wards and there's a not-for-profit, in a general town election townwide, let's say the supervisor wins by 1,000 votes, they win the board seats by 1,000 votes. Whereas if you had a ward system, you win that ward by 1,000 votes, but you could lose this one, and this one, and the non-for-profits won't control the town of Fishkill. The residents will still control the town of Fishkill.
Are there any not-for-profits at the moment that you're aware of that are moving into the town?
The only not-for-profit we have is the Watchtower, which bought probably about 50 million of land back in the mid-2010s.
Over on 9D, right?
Yeah, over 9D, and they've built another 50 million worth of property, so like 100 million off the tax rolls. Fortunately, they don't engage in the political process. I give them credit for that. I'm very worried about downstate. The
Okay.
governor wants to put 1,325 residential units in there. You multiply that by 2, that could be a voting block that would they would run the town of Fishkill.
That's not profit.
Well, hey, listen. I'm thinking in the future, what could happen, what couldn't happen. So we get this resolution passed with special elections, we go into the ward system, we let the public aware of it, and we take it. We have residents like you come in and talk, and we'll see where we take it from there.
Because it sounds like that we're trying to look further ahead, and I can appreciate that. Whatever happens with downstate, it's not going to be happening between now and November.
No.
And
I hope not.
Well, people aren't moving into unbuilt homes between now and November.
No way.
So I'm also going to assume that a special election is going to cost tens of thousands of dollars.
It's possible.
Okay. So since there was also a discussion tonight about reserves and putting money into the reserves, if we have money for, again, tens of thousands of dollars for a special election, we can just put that money into reserves if it's not spent.
No.
The point that I'm trying to make is I don't think it's a necessary expense.
You might be right, Mr. Carnelli.
When we can just wait until November.
You are right.
And I'm not trying to get you guys bickering again, I'm just trying to share my opinion at this point. And I liken the special election right now and the idea of, and the concern of people not flipping it over to a school budget vote, right? On the back of just about every Wappinger's budget vote is propositions, right? You flip it over and it's there. We don't see Wappingers holding 2 separate elections, one for the front and then one for the back to make sure everyone sees it. It is our responsibility as residents to make sure that we are informed, and we have the opportunity by you guys and ladies spreading the word, right, through these meetings, through emails that come out, through us spreading the word amongst each other. So whether the rest of the town wants it or not, then that's open for discussion and open for election, but I don't think we need to waste money doing it a few months early when we already have a process in place to take care of it in November.
You could be right. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
All right.
Louise Anielli. I have to just keep this in order. So I just want to note the date, that it's March 5th, and I am completely agreeing with the 2 gentlemen on the end here, Councilmember Foreman and Councilmember Rye. I just want to go back and reiterate some of the things that the supervisor said. He said that it was reckless what the board members did, which is untrue.
It is true.
So, I'm speaking, Supervisor.
It is true.
I'm speaking.
Sure.
When I'm done, you
Sure.
can speak. That would be courteous.
Sure.
Okay. I have so many little notes here that I have to just start with. So what was reckless was the $450,000 in raises that was spent when it was not budget time. Not me that did that one. You were part of that one. So if we're talking about reckless things, that was reckless. What I did when I worked with the other board members was because you wanted to remove a beloved employee, and you also didn't want to give a raise to a different employee. So whatever I disagree with the 2 gentlemen on the end, when right is right, I will work with them. And I did work with them. And what we did was not wrong. And it wasn't $750,000. In the end, I think the difference was $350,000. We spoke to the comptroller about it. We spoke to our financial advisor about it, and it was not reckless. And you actually signed off on the capital plan for the 2023 tentative budget for purchasing the trucks that you're talking about, for the equipment for the trucks. So if you felt the 2023 budget was wrong, why wouldn't you have corrected it last year in 2024? Because You are trying to bring the fund balance up, which is what you just said, because it's an election year. So don't blame us for what we did in 2023 for the budget, when if you didn't agree with it, you could have made modifications to last year's budget. So you're just trying to, it's true, so that's true. So when I think that an employee that's really beloved by the town is gonna be removed, I worked with these two gentlemen and the other one, and we did it the way we were supposed to do it. And then I believe that you tried to say that, I think you voted no because you thought that we were defunding the police for $5,000 for travel, and the chief didn't have a problem with us removing that. So when you voted no, you tried to say that we were defunding the police, which was not true, of course.
You defunded the police by lowering the budget.
Not done yet, you can go.
I'll just write that
Yep,
down.
yep. So I agree with Councilmember Foreman that what we did was not reckless. It was actually the right thing to do. And you even agreed in the capital plan to buy those trucks and put it in the tentative budget. So, not correct.
May I make a comment, please?
Yes, please.
Thank you. That $5,000 during that time, I remember we specifically asked
That's right,
the
you said.
chief
Right.
if there was something he could give back, and he offered $5,000 I'm not going to spend in the travel, so yeah, take that. So, well, thank you, chief.
Right.
Boom.
Right. I have to
That's
say,
defunding the police.
It is defunding the police.
I don't blame Ozzy, the supervisor. Are you speaking, Greg, or am I speaking? I don't blame the supervisor for what he's trying to say about defunding the police. He was upset because he didn't know that I was working with Carmine and with you two, because I didn't think what he was doing was right. So when I don't think he's doing something right, I have no problem working with people that I usually disagree with, which is what I did. And there was nothing reckless about it. What was reckless was $450,000 in raises when it wasn't budgeted. So that's one thing. Let's see. And Brian is Councilmember Rye is 100% right about everything he's saying about this special election. So is Councilmember Foreman. So if you both believe that it's not necessary or fiscally responsible, you should vote no for it. Don't be compelled to believe you should let the people decide when they voted for you, and you should decide what is best, and that's saying no, we don't need a special election. Councilmember Rye is also correct. Everybody can read in the agenda packet all of the memos from our town attorney, which specifically say everything that he was trying to say before. One of the things in there that I found interesting was creating boundary lines, that the town may adopt a law under the municipal home rule giving the responsibility for drawing the ward boundary lines to the town. So the board, or the majority of the board, could technically draw the lines. So I have a problem with that. I don't think that should be done. So that could be done if you make these rules to establish having a special election. I think it's also unrealistic, like Councilmember Foreman said, to put all of that responsibility on the town clerk, who's not trained to do it. And if you read Mr. Gaba's memo, he agreed. The things that the town clerk would have to do: post and publish notice, prepare ballots, need to contract with a printer, prepare those ballots, prepare notices, assist with the County Board of Elections, obtain the rolls of the voters registered, their signatory sheets. She has a whole list of things that she would have to do, which she is not trained for. The town would need to make arrangements for election inspectors and pay for them. We would have to lease the voting booths, scanning machines, create polling places, have leases for those polling places. The town clerk would need to tabulate the results through the scanning machine, certify the results. It goes on and on and on, and you can read them all in the agenda packet. Thankfully, that was actually something that was included, not like the other things that didn't have anything in there. So there really is no good reason to have a special election other than the supervisor wants one. So no one will come out if you have a special election in August on a Tuesday for 4 hours, and then he will get what he wants, because that's what it appears it is. If it was something that he really wanted the people to vote for and he believed in it, then there should be no special election discussion at all. It should be in November, because like the other person said, People are not stupid. They know how to flip the ballot over, and they can read it and decide for themselves if they actually want to do it. The last part of Mr. Gaba's argument, actually say arguments for a November election and not a special election. Citizens, do citizens want a special election? What it would cost. The town clerk is not trained. Elections are the responsibility of the Dutchess County Board of Elections. Since this would be a vote of a long-lasting and substantial consequence for our town, why rush it, and why not let the Board of Elections handle it? You would also be putting our town at risk for lawsuits, because if she didn't do something right, because she wasn't trained, then we could be spending more money than we were spending in actually having the special election on lawsuits. I believe that
Louise, just to be clear, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But this last page was not in my memo. This was added by the clerk. I'm not sure where it came from.
This last page.
What last?
111.3C in the packet. Some
Page
initial
20?
items
Page
that could-
20?
Yeah, in no particular order. Page
Some-
20.
Oh, that was me. That was my little add-on to everything that you
Well,
wrote.
you can't add on to my memo. You can put your own memo sheet. That's
listen,
not the town
listen,
attorney.
I got a second to apply it in there. It's actually those guys.
Wait, so Mr. Gaba, page 20 you're saying was not you?
That is not me.
Okay, I stand corrected.
It is a
Because-
different item in the
Was that the
agenda.
web-
It's
was that the website?
11.3.
I wanted that as a separate item, and I was told it's just gonna be put in there like this, so.
Brian is correct. Brian did the right thing.
Yeah.
He did, yes.
Okay, so I stand corrected. This is not Mr. Gaba's memo. It continued on from page.
No, they just put it.
Yeah,
behind
that's
you.
okay. It continued on from page 19 to 20, so I just kept reading it.
Did you find that genius?
I did find it genius.
Oh,
Brian.
thank you.
I think the world has gone upside down. I'm agreeing with the two of you. Like, let me know today's date. It's, what the heck is today's date? It's just insanity. Yeah, so, let's see, what's the rest? And again, like when we listen to the supervisor tell us he's only going to be here for so many years, he's trying to protect us from the nonprofits. Who are you protecting us from? Because the more you say it, the more I think, are you anti-Semitic? That's what I'm thinking. You refer to Rockland, you refer to Orange County. What works here is fine. It may not be what the original founders did, but it's been working fine for a really long time, and we don't need to spend money to change it. And if the board members think that we should not spend money to change it, they should not agree with it. They shouldn't feel like compelled to do it because the supervisor wants to do it. Let's see. The supervisor, the side.
Listen, I was against the
I'm not
Jehovah's
done yet,
Witnesses
not done
15
yet, not
years
done
ago.
yet, Supervisor.
I don't know
Okay.
what yours-
If it gets approved, I had a question for our attorney. If a majority of the board next year comes on, a different majority, if it got approved, could that majority then do the same thing that this majority would do now, which is overturn it? Have another referendum and say that they don't want it before the boundary lines are created?
Well, you can go from at-large elections to the ward system. You can go from the ward system to at-large elections. Both are subject to mandatory referendum. So you could put it out for referendum again.
Right.
But they couldn't change it themselves.
No, that's not what I said. So I thought, right, just what I said that. So if this gets done in a special election, because nobody votes in special elections, nobody goes to the fire elections, they forget the fire department elections, the BOCES elections, school board elections, some people go for that one, but that one doesn't really matter because they're going to redo it and get it through anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how I feel. I think we should leave it alone. It's working fine. I don't think we need any kind of special election rules. I think that Councilmember Foreman and Rye are correct, and I also think that Councilmember Foreman unknowingly voted for the budget when he voted yes for the changes. So it's not for the supervisor to tell the other council member that he can't speak on an item, whether he voted for it or not. So I think that's pretty much it.
Yes, you did vote for it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Next up is, we have, I apologize, consent. I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call.
A roll call?
On consent.
Okay.
Okay. Councilmember Bardini?
Aye.
Councilmember Tatino?
Aye.
Councilmember Foreman?
Aye, with one caveat that I object to not paving $800,000 worth of roads that was in the budget, and we're only spending money on $315,000.
So that's $500,000.
But I'll vote to pave the roads that are in this agreement.
Okay, so you made a statement. Okay. Go on.
Councilmember Rye
I agree with John.
Yeah, all right.
and Supervisor Albrecht.
Yeah, 5-0 vote, yes. Next up is resolution, the first one, we're going to have to table it. Mr. Gabbard, this is the one with the violation for 8252, right?
Yes. Just table it.
Table it to which meeting?
First meeting of April.
Yeah, and then you can table it further if they come in and convince you that they're proceeding in good faith to clean up the property.
Okay.
And if they don't, you'd be in a position to adopt it and move forward with the property maintenance proceedings.
If we can make a connection with the one on Van Wyck, we can do it also, so we can add that one on there too?
Yeah, I have that resolution ready to go. I didn't submit it because we didn't serve them.
Okay, so if we serve that person, we can have that one ready also for the first
Absolutely,
meeting?
absolutely.
Okay, so first, table this one to the first meeting of April, please.
Okay.
Then the next one up would be the resolution to authorize year-end budget modifications of the 2024 operating budget. ID number, excuse my eyes here, 9890, whereas the town is obligated by general municipal law to maintain a balanced budget in the government funds, and whereas in order to close the financial records for the year ending in December 31st, 2024, certain budget amendments, transfers, and amendments may be required, and whereas the town controller has requested to make certain necessary budget adjustments, transfers, and amendments in order to produce a balanced budget for the year 2024, now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Fishkill hereby authorize town control to make all necessary adjustments, transfers, amendments to the 2024 operating budget revenue and expenditure records required to produce a balanced budget as identified in the attachment titled Town of Fishkill 2024 Final Budget Amendment. I presented a motion. Can I have a second? John, all in favor?
Aye.
I have nothing for item of special consideration, new and old business. Anything new, Jackie?
No.
Brian?
Yes.
Go.
You and I discussed this. I've been working with staff, town staff, to, and, we've gathered information, et cetera, on the affordable housing program.
Okay.
And for delays, staff has different projects, different things that come up, so it's been a little bit delayed. What I'm seeking to do, and I think that the board might agree with this, and let me know what your thoughts are, but everything about the affordable housing, people have to call and ask and see and whatever. We can just simply put it online, here, just everything about it, locations, income levels, just everything. So they can look and see, and also we can have whoever is to be in charge of it in town hall that is maintaining that and keeping it current if there are any vacancies anywhere, and making sure that that information on the website gets out as well. So I think if you all agree, this is something that we should just kind of do, because it's always a mystery to everyone, and I worked with Christian to get him to give that basic thesis on the background of the whole thing and status, et cetera. So let's demystify it and put it out there online. How do you all feel?
So I agree with you, Brian. How about we do a resolution determining what we need to do?
Okay.
And work with Christian and Mr. Gabbard to do a resolution for the first April meeting.
Sounds
Can
fine.
we do that?
Yep.
This way we'll delineate how that works out.
That sounds good.
Is that good, Brian?
Yep.
Anything else?
Not at this point, no.
John?
No.
You anything?
No, I'm good.
Jackie, anything? So I have to apologize to you. You mentioned downstate the land back in the day, and I
Yes.
said I was wrong. There was a farm there. They knocked down the farm. So there was a private farm that owned it, that sold to the state to build downstate, so I apologize.
Got it.
I've always been against not-for-profits. When the Watchtower came in 2006, 2007, I was a vocal opponent about not-for-profits. I don't care who they are. They don't pay taxes, I'm not a fan of them. Anybody that try to bring religion into this is just wrong. Let me see, next town board meeting is, what?
You want to talk about your meeting next Wednesday?
What was next Wednesday? Oh, yeah. Anybody that's interested in the good cause eviction, we're having a meeting here next Wednesday. Everybody, all the board members are invited to be there at 7 o'clock. We're going to record it and put it on our town website. It'll just give you a basic brief synopsis. We're going to have an attorney that represents people there, so if you have questions, and it should be about an hour and a half. So if you have any questions about good cause eviction, pro or con, please show up next week. Thank you.
That's great. You're welcome.
I do got one more thing here. There was a gentleman that is making a cannon, and he was thinking about asking the board for some help, whether it's some financial stuff, or maybe reaching out to the public. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, so I just want to.
Making a cannon?
It's a small cannon.
What are we going to do with the
I was
cannon?
gonna say, I don't know that we could support him with funds. If we wanted to purchase a cannon from him, I suppose we could, but I'm not sure we have a need at the moment. Maybe we could.
I
see
mean, we're
about
eventually
the
going to
revolution,
have,
but
you know, you and I are working on trying to do things out at the newly named
yes,
Town of Fishkill Veterans Memorial Park.
right.
Maybe, run it by Virgil and the veterans and let them decide,
Okay.
you know?
Okay, that's a good idea. And the last thing, we bought a sign machine. Carmine, today was the first day they operated it. One of the big things, our big push in the town is a community pride where you live, and certain parts of the town have different mailing addresses, such as Wappingers and Beacon on the Route 9 D corridor. Where I live in Glenham, we have a Beacon mailing address. Beacon Hills has a Beacon mailing address. So we just bought a new sign machine. It was about $55,000. It'll pay for itself in about 3 or 4 years. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to redo the signs in the town, speed signs, stop signs, and the street signs. And in the areas, we're going to put the town seal right next to the verbiage here. So if you think you live in Wappingers and you see this, you're going to know you live in the town of Fishkill.
That's great.
So with these signs and the sign machines, I want to build more community awareness. And we're going to do some hamlets also throughout the town of Fishkill. And it's going to beautify our roads and keep Fishkill beautiful. That's all I got.
I got one more thing, but
Sure.
I was so glad when Carmine said he wanted to do this because
And we voted
It's
to do
sa-
this, guys. This is,
yeah.
this is us.
And that's saving the town
Yes.
money.
Yes.
On top of it being like immediately available to us to make these. One last thing, and I'm sure you'll agree with this. Speaking of our head of our Veterans Committee, Virgil did send us, and I want to make this announcement because there may be people
Please.
who may want to attend
Please.
the Vietnam veteran Kenneth John Maury. He's going to be buried at the Fishkill Rural Cemetery this Friday, March 7th at 12 to 12:30. And he has a legal guardian, but he has no family. This is a Vietnam veteran who lives in Dutchess County, will be buried here in Fishkill, again, this Friday, 12 to 12:30. And if you have the time and in your heart, come out and pay respect to this man.
I'll be there. That's great.
I'll be there too.
All right. Next town board meeting, March 19th. No executive session. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second?
Second.
God bless America. God bless Fishkill. Good night.
Okay.
Good. 2 hours.